Alrighty, so here we have Susan Miles, who is the Director of Client Services for the Central East Corporate Centre, which is located in Peterborough, Ontario. So Susan, you have been, while you're located in Peterborough, you've been on the road a lot over the last year because you were working in Toronto and then you were working in London helping with some transition, undergoing some massive change with the people that you worked with. So what kinds of activities and actions did you take as a director leading people through what would be considered fairly disruptive and challenging times of change?
I would think that as a director, my role is to provide leadership and support for my staff. And depending on where I was working throughout the year, that was different. It was different because the people I worked with were different at every location. And for the staff that I worked with specifically in Toronto, and they were going through a life-altering change, a significant decision point in their life for them, and more importantly, just as importantly, their family, having to make that decision and how they could continue working until that decision had to be made was very important.
Because you were closing a site and transitioning some employees to another site, correct?
Yeah, transitioning who was able to go, but also supporting and trying to maintain engagement of the employees who knew at the end this wasn't an option for them to relocate.
Okay.
And so their jobs were essentially their journey with FEON was potentially going to come to an end in the near future. And trying to maintain engagement.
Yeah, very tough to do. So what are the kinds of activities that you undertook?
Some of the activities walking into the site at a challenging time, because I didn't have the historical context with those employees, was walking in at a time when the employees were very disruptive, when the employees felt nobody was listening to them, when they felt they were no longer valued. And so building the basic blocks that a leader must do with their employees, of letting them know I had their back, helping clarify their roles, making sure they knew how important they were in that cycle, that they were a key link. And if they weren't working at their best, and if they weren't supporting the frontline service provider, then our clients weren't getting the support they needed. So I was there to provide the support and the strength they maybe lacked at the beginning, and to help them build and feel more empowered in their role.
So as a leader, what are the kinds of things that you learned about what they needed at that time to maintain their engagement levels?
First and foremost, they needed to know that I understood their concerns and that they were doing a good job, and that perhaps maybe they hadn't had that reinforcement the way they could have in the weeks to months for a long time leading up to my arrival. But the first thing was to let them know that they were important and that they had the skills and the ability, and I was there to believe in them, and we were going to work through it.
And what kind of cool things happened as a result of your work?
People became engaged. They were disengaged when I arrived, and it was very challenging to meet somebody new, and then coming in at a time that we had to deliver devastating news was challenging, but all of a sudden people started working together. It wasn't a big deal that if we were behind, they could stay that extra half hour to help get things. They understood that I wouldn't take their issues of concern. I would take them I would take their issues that they brought to me, but I would expect them to be respectful back. So if they were disrespectful to a service provider, and that service provider was disrespectful to them, I would basically say, well, how can I address that? Because look at what you did. So you provide the expectation of your role, and then if somebody else is causing some challenge for you, then we'll work on that. And so it's just the understanding that you need to be the change you want to see.
So you modeled the behavior for them.
Absolutely. And addressed it when it was inappropriate, both ways.
So were you surprised when things started to turn around?
Yeah. At first I was challenged, and there was quite a few days where I was in tears and we were all like extremely stressed, but all of a sudden things just started clicking. And people started knowing that, things are going to be okay regardless of whatever the end result of this was going to be, and empowering them to understand just how important they are, what beautiful skills they have and that they can use, and that everything we do now is just a stepping stone to their next opportunity.
And so what kind of learnings do you think that they got out of the experience of working together with you on this whole strategy?
I think they felt self-confidence, that they felt that they were valued, and that even if they were here, every minute that they spent with VON, every minute they spent with a service provider or a client on the phone was a minute that they would never get back, and you need to make the most of it. And I think that understanding that sometimes we're in a difficult situation and that some of us don't have the power to change that, but we can make the best of what we have in the best of the time we have given to us.
Wow, that's terrific. Is there any one piece of advice that you would give to anybody who is working in a spot of high change?
Make sure that those people know you have their back, number one. Because that will give them the strength and the empowerment to make the changes that'll make a difference for your clients.
So it builds loyalty and it comes right down to client service in the end?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much. This is terrific.
Thanks. I didn't know what else to say.